Guys, welcome to Mr. Investor Real Estate Dojo. Today what we're going to talk about is some basic general real estate terms. Okay, it's very important that you guys understand the jargon of any business that you're doing. Okay, it's very, very important. If you're a doctor, you need to know doctor jargon. If you're an attorney, you need to know attorney jargon. As a business owner and multiple business owners, I had to wear many different hats, so I know a lot of different jargons, from biology all the way to accounting, all the way to law, all the way to marketing, all the way to real estate. Okay, I mean the list goes on, and so my job is to help you understand the jargon or the words or the key words in this business and understand the meaning behind these words. Okay, so let's just go ahead and pull the curtain back, dive in there, and get to work. Okay, so the first word I need you to learn and remember and start using is called a deed. What is a deed? Okay, simply put, a deed is the title. For example, if you own the car, you buy a car, you get the title. Okay, all right. So the title is the ownership of the property. In this case, is the real estate. So the deed determines who owns the property. Now, the next word, and that's why I put them next to each other, is a little confusing. It's called the deed of trust. Okay? Let me say it again. Deed of trust. And this is not the deed, guys. Okay? A deed of trust is a security instrument that the buyer pledges the real estate property against in case he or she defaults. Let me say that again. The deed of trust is a security instrument that the seller pledges to the bank or to the lender that if they default, the lender has the right to foreclose and they take the property back to pay off their losses, okay, in that investment or lending the money out, okay? So the deed of trust is not the ownership. It's a security instrument that is filed at the county clerk's office against the buyer in favor of the lender or whoever the creditor may be, okay, or lender, okay? Now, let's talk about the note. Simply put, a note is an IOU, okay? For example, when you go borrow money from, let's say, a bank to buy a car, you'll sign a personally note, okay, that says, hey, I owe the bank X amount of dollars and I'll pay X amount or Y amount a month for Z many months, okay? So that's what a note is. It's an IOU, okay? Now, let me explain what happens. Like, for example, if I'm buying a house from Mr. Seller A, I will go to Bank of America, and once I am approved and we go to closing, three things are going to basically happen, okay? Three things. The seller A is going to deed me the property. Okay? Me as the buyer, I'm going to sign a deed of trust to the Bank of America saying that, hey, if I don't pay or do what I say on this note, you could take the property back through this lien or the deed of trust, okay? If I don't perform, if I breach contract, okay? So what happens is at closing, the seller signs a deed to me. I sign a deed of trust to my lender, and then I sign the note with the lender. And the note is basically the terms of what the lender and I have agreed with on that IOU that I owe him money, basically that debt collateral instrument, okay? So this is between me and the lender, this is between me and the lender, and then the lender funds, once I sign number 2 and 3, the note and deed, the money to the seller, and therefore the seller will deed me the property, okay? So it's kind of important that you understand that, and that's why I went over it, okay? Some other terms you need to understand. What is a lien? Well, a lien is basically a security instrument for a debt that's filed at the county clerk's office in favor of the creditor, okay? So liens can vary. You could have purchase money liens. For example, you get a loan from bank. You could have IRS liens. You could have child support liens. You could have credit card liens. You could have hospital liens. You could have small claims court, regular court. So there's a lot of different liens out there. Liens can also be encumbrances, where you have to give a certain pathway to your adjacent neighbor or to the city, or yada yada yada. There's too many different things. Just remember that liens are, it's going to cloud up the title, okay? And I'm going to explain to you what a cloud up the title means, okay? Just in a minute, okay? The next word you need to understand is a breach of contract, okay? A breach of contract just simply means that when person A and person A made certain types of commitments and person B made certain types of commitments, and then when they sign a contract, they saying, hey, I'm going to fulfill my obligation, whatever that is. For example, I'm going to pay you X amount of dollars, and the company says I'm going to render their services. And a breach of contract means that one party did something and the other party did not obey or but didn't follow the terms of the contract. So that's a breach of contract when one party doesn't do what he or she said they were going to do, okay? And there's usually negligence sometimes involved in it, or losses and liabilities and things of that nature. So a breach of contract is really not a good thing, okay? And you'll learn in the business, okay? You want to do what you say. It's very important that you do what you say, okay? Now, what is the clear title? What is the title, okay? When we buy a house and we get the deed from the seller, we want to do a title search to make sure there's no liens on the property, that the seller actually has vested interest in the property and nobody else owns the property, and so many different things. So if that title is clean, then that's what we call a clear title, because the seller actually has the ability to convey the property to you or to the buyer, okay? Now, a clouded title can arise of liens, for example, back taxes, child support, or it could be just an investor signed up on a contract, got notarized, filed at a county clerk's office, then the seller decided to sell it to another investor, and when it goes to closing with a second investor, they realizes there's a lien on the property, or there's a cloud on the title. Actually, there's not a lien, there's a cloud on the title, okay? So there's a lot of ways for us to protect ourselves in wholesaling. Look at the other videos and I'll explain that in those videos more detailed. But just to understand the general terms, okay? Now, let's talk about equity. What is equity? Okay? Equity is the amount remaining after you pay, one, all the liens, and two, you pay the cost of selling the house. What is the cost of selling the house? Let me just throw a couple out there, okay? Realtor cost, title policy, closing cost, inspection repair cost, yada yada yada, okay? Holding fees if the house is empty, electricity, grass, water, insurance, taxes, the list goes on, guys, okay? So equity is the harvest amount after the cost of the sale, okay? So, for example, if the house is worth $100 and the seller owes $80,000, okay? $20,000 is not the profit, it's not the harvest, it's not the equity, because from there we gotta subtract other things like X and Y, okay? What is X and Y? Closing costs, realtor costs, other things, and then we're gonna have the equity, the actual equity, okay, guys? All right? Now, what is negative equity? And negative equity simply means that when a buyer has to go to closing, they gotta bring money out their pocket to pay, to get out and underneath this debt, or in other words, to sell their home, because the house is upside down, it's underwater. What do I mean? The house is worth $100, the seller may owe $115, $120, $130, whatever, $105. If it's still $105, this is still negative equity, because the cost of closing is normally about 10%, okay? And I can break that down for you real quick, okay? Why is it 10%? 6% realtor cost, roughly about 3% closing costs, which includes escrow and title policy. So that right there is 9%, and you just add 1% easily for negotiation that the realtor is going to do, or the buyer is going to counter or set concessions they want. Okay, if you include the repairs you got to do for the inspection, because when a civilian buyer buys your house, they got to get a loan. And there always is an inspection, and I hardly ever seen any houses that pass inspection 100%, even on newer homes. Okay, so there's always things that needs to be done. 200, 500, or even more. Okay, so that costs money, guys. Okay, so that's why I come up with a 10%. And I'm being conservative. Okay, it's a lot of times it's more than 2%. Okay, and the average realtor is trained to negotiate 2 to 5% off the asking price. Okay, so there's a lot of things involved in it, guys. But just go with the rule of thumb. 10% is easy. Okay, so if somebody owes a house that's worth 100 and they owe 100, see, they got to come out of pocket at least $10,000 when they close. Not fun, guys, but it allows us to come in, create a win-win situation, use untraditional strategies through creative financing, and be able to create a win-win situation for the seller, for the buyer, for the community, and for us. Okay? Only in America, guys, you could do this. Only in America. And that's why I'm glad to be here. And you should be too. Every day you wake up, okay? Wake up and take a second and be thankful that you are in America, that you do have your family or your loved ones, or you do have a job, or you do have your legs, or you do have your arms, that you're able to breathe in, okay, guys? Some people are in the hospital, man. They're on tubes, okay? Some people don't have their legs. Some people are in Korea or in Iran or in some Middle East country, in a third world country, guys, right? And there's dictatorships, and there's different classes, and you can't make it like you can in America, guys. So there is no excuses, in my mind, to sit and cry, okay? None. Go out there, hustle, work hard, be committed, and you can have anything in America, man. The soil is so green, guys. You just throw the seed in there and you water and it just grows up, man. It's just simple, okay? It's like hitting the gym. If you just go in there, you're going to see results. You just got to go in there. That's it. You got to go in there and lift some weight. It is hard, no doubt. But whatever is hard, it's success at the end of that road, guys. 100% guaranteed, okay? That's what champs are about, okay? You don't have to be the smartest guy, okay? I'm not the smartest tool in the toolbox, okay? But I'll work anybody, okay? I will get up early. I will stay late. I will sacrifice. I won't have vacations. I won't have holidays. I will constantly educate myself. So it's all about hard work in America. You can do anything, okay, guys? So let's go back into the definition. We have one more term, and this is due on sale, okay? Now the reason I explained that is because a lot of times when we do one of these creative financing, we're going to run into what is called a due on sale, what I call DOS, okay? Due on sale clause. And basically a due on sale clause is an acceleration clause that's put into the deed of trust, okay? All right, and what that says is that if the seller breaches contract in the note, all right, or in the trust, that the lender has the right to accelerate the note and ask for all their money up front in 30 days or 60 days or 90 days, okay? That's all that means. You're not going to go to jail. You're not breaking the law if there's a due on sale. It's just a breach of contract. It's just a contract thing. You're not a criminal. You're not going to go to jail. You haven't broke any laws. It's just a contract, okay? There's two types of laws out there. There's criminal laws and civil laws, okay? Like business-to-business dispute is just contract laws, okay? The only thing that could happen is, liability and cash, but you're not going to go to jail, okay? So just know what a due on sale clause is, because sometimes when we do owner financing or creative financing subject to wraps, we need to understand that to be able to explain to the seller, because that will happen or can happen, okay? Well, we have to let them know the disclosure's there, but the probability of it happening is very, 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 very low. You have a higher probability of getting in your car and getting in a car wreck, okay? All right. So guys, I went over some information. Let me see if I forgot anything. All right, let me explain one other thing, which is very, very important. All right, and this is going to help you understand down the line with the escrow companies and things of that nature, okay? Now, remember we talked about earlier the deed equals the ownership or the title, okay? And now, a lot of people don't know this, and so I want to explain this to you, okay? When the seller signs the deed, ownership has not transferred, okay? When the seller, the deed does not have to be recorded at the county clerks to have ownership transferred. It's very important that you understand this. Somebody could deed the property, convey, and the buyer could put that deed in the drawer, and they still own the property. Okay, guys? All right. So, what I'm trying to say here is that the way the deed or the title is transferred is not just by signing a document. Okay. The way the title is transferred by law is when the seller signs a document, actually delivers it to the buyer. If the seller just signs it and puts it in escrow, the buyer doesn't instantly own the property. The seller still owns it when it's delivered. Okay, that's why, you know, in every transaction that happens in America, when the buyer doesn't have cash and they go to a Bank of America, or Wells Fargo, one of those institutions, you know, that's why they do it in escrow, because the money's got to be there. The deed, the seller signs it, but the buyer doesn't own it. The money is funded, and then the deed is transferred, okay? So remember this. The ownership only happens when the deed is delivered from the seller to the buyer. It could be happening at a title company. It could be hand delivered. It could be via mail. So when it's signed, ownership does not change. Ownership does not change if it's not recorded. You know, you can still own a property if it's not recorded at county clerk's office. What's conveys is seller signs and it's delivered. So the delivery part is change of ownership, guys. Remember that, because when we do not wholesaling, but when we do wholesaling and subject twos, you know, and wraps, things of that nature, and creative financing, you kind of have to understand this idea to be able to explain to sellers. And I'll have more videos about this coming up. But as in right now, as long as you understand this, you're gonna do way better than most people. Okay. So this is Michael, Mr. Investor, and this is the Real Estate Dojo. Talk to you soon. Go out there and make it happen for yourself. Be hungry.